Welcome back, YouTube DIYers, auto repair enthusiasts. I'm back again with the 97 Camry that I have, my little project car that my son uses. And this is the 97 Camry with the 4-cylinder engine, LE model, 5SFE engine. Now, this project kind of snowballed on me. Initially, what I was doing was just a timing belt and maybe a few oil leaks. But at 217 plus thousand miles, this ended up being a much larger job than I anticipated. So at this point, what I've done is I've repaired all these oil leaks, the oil pan, the valve cover gasket we've taken care of. I've done things such as replace the water pump, since that was part of the timing belt change, the thermostat, and some other things. And then I decided, because these valves were so gummed up, I want to go ahead and just do the valve job. Now, what I had done through the advice of one of my guys on justanswer.com to clean these exhaust ports up was to use a mixture of 50/50 BG 44K and gasoline and let it soak. I have pictures of before and after, and I'll probably try and include those photographs in this video. But I'm going to show you now what these ports look like. They are a little bit cleaner. You can still see some carbon way over there. Not so bad in there. But wait till I get, oh, okay, again, way over here in the number 4 cylinder. Let's get a good focus here. There we go. So again, still a lot of carbon, and I figured the seals are probably shot anyway. So in order to do this particular job, which is the valve job, and I'm going to take it to a shop and have it done, you've got to remove the head. So you're doing a head gasket job. I can tell you, removing the exhaust manifold is not overly difficult, but you do have to disconnect it from the exhaust system. I can really tell you that intake manifold, very difficult. Again, it's a one-man job. I have no help. It's just myself climbing up under this car with jack stands. And you reach a point where the jack stands are so high you can reach things fairly well underneath, but then if you're not tall enough to reach over, say back here, it makes it a little difficult. So I may have to get a stool, and I'm at 5'9", so I figure you got to be at least a 6-footer to be able to reach over there adequately. Now, there's a certain sequence to this. In order to take this particular cylinder head off, you don't have to take the double camshaft out. Now, the cylinder head jobs I've done in the past were Hondas, and they were single. I had a V6, which had a single in each. That wasn't so bad. And then I had a 95, well, I'm sorry, it was a 99 Honda. The 95 Honda I had was a 4-cylinder, and it was a single camshaft, so it wasn't so bad. And they were spring-loaded. This one has lifters, which look like watch batteries, these hydraulic lifters. Now, you won't be able to see them at the moment. I'll give you a, well, if I can get the flashlight to work. Let's see, hold on a second. There we go. It's going to be under the cam lobes, way down there, and it looks a little bit like a watch battery. And of course the studio light goes out. So what I have to do, you know, that's being pressed up by springs underneath and the keepers, and in order to remove the camshaft, you have to turn the camshaft position to 15. Oh, darn it. Hold on, let me start this over again. Alright, got the flashlight working again. So, one of the first things I have to do is, you know, I've got the cylinder, number 1 cylinder top dead center anyway, when I got ready to do this timing belt. But down here, what keeps this particular camshaft pulley on is a knock pin. Now, on my Hondas, it was like a Woodruff key. On this one, it's a pin. Now, you notice the engine does have a slight tilt to it. So, you've got to remove the exhaust camshaft first, which is the one in the front. Intake is in the back. I have to take and position the knock pin, which is underneath the pulley, and I'll when I get everything out, I'll show you that knock pin. I have to take it and tilt it somewhere between 10 and 45 degrees toward the firewall. And what that does is that takes the cam lobes and positions them as far away from the valve spring pressure as possible. Now you've got on the front, the exhaust valve, you've got 5 caps to remove, and you have to do that in sequence. On the rear you have 4, because over here way at the back would have been a distributor, but this car does not have a distributor. You also, in this particular, it's hard to see, but there is a main gear and a sub-assembly gear. You'll see the split right there between the 2 gears. You have to take a service bolt right there and put it through this main gear into the sub-assembly gear, which is threaded. It's an M6 by 1.0, and the manual says anywhere from a 20 millimeter long to, I don't know, 25 millimeter long. This is a little over 20. So what it will do is it will keep those 2 gears together when you remove everything. You can see it poking out there. Just remember when you're done to remove that thing. So what I'm going to do is, once I get this exhaust side out, I have a red tag from the machine shop when I had my intake manifold clean. I'm just going to wrap that around there so that I don't forget. Now, I've checked my placement, and what I'm going to have to do is I will remove the number 5 bearing cap first. Then I have to remove 1, 2, and 4. And once you loosen up the bolts, from that point on it says you loosen them in quarter turn increments. That will leave the number 3 as the last one removed, since it's pretty much in the center. And when you remove it, do it in quarter turn increments. And that way things don't get catawampy. And it says that if it doesn't come up evenly, to reapply gentle pressure, put all these back together, try again. Don't really go and pry on anything. So that's what I'm going to try here in a few minutes. Oh, I forgot one detail. When you have everything like at top dead center, if you look at where my screwdriver is pointing, the gears, there, the gears have 2 dots. Very difficult to discern. There we go. There are 2 dots, one on each gear, and those have to match when you reassemble things. Alright, let me get my tools, set this up on a tripod. Now I'm going to treat this much like you do the regular head gasket bolt removal. So number 5, I'm going to go ahead and start by loosening those bolts up. Now one thing you want to remember is you don't want to mix these parts up. So they are numbered and lettered. So again, this is the exhaust, that's the intake, and these caps will have an arrow which points toward the timing bolt, timing belt end of the engine. I will also, when I take these camshafts out, I'll pull things out with a magnet, you know, the keepers and the shims, and I've got little bottles that I'll put those in and mark them accordingly. I have this in my garage, and I do have an outdoor cat. This outdoor cat has a tendency to come in and knock things over, which drives me absolutely crazy. So I'm going to make sure that nothing gets lost or mixed up. May take a little persuasion, so a little soft mallet tap. There we go. That's the first bearing cap. Now, it says exhaust, E for exhaust, and an arrow going that way. And I know that's number 5. A little tough to see. There's some grease in here. Let me see if I can wipe that out. Alright, no, it is not numbered. I stand corrected. Here it says E, and that's front. F. So I'm going to place it. I'll go off camera for a second. Have a box all set up off camera. Alright, let's go with number 1, 2, and 4. Alright, so I've loosened it. That was loose. That was loose. Now 1/4 inch turns. That's quarter, 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 quarter turn, quarter turn. This way you get it loose enough that you can use just the socket. Take things off. Alright. I think this cap will be a little easier to get off. Alright. So there's cap 1. Alright. It says E1 points toward the timing belt into the engine. Let me go off camera again. Okay, that was 1. Now it says number 2. Quarter turn. Turns. I think I'm loose enough now to use just the socket. There's number 2. Again, it's 2 exhaust pointing toward the timing belt. We take it over to the box. Now we go for number 4. Quarter turns. This way, even pressure. There's number 4. Those came off fairly easily. The reason they have to be replaced in the same order that they came out is the wear pattern. All right, number 3, the last one. Turn, quarter turn, another quarter turn. Now that's lifting up. There's a little bit of pressure. I can see it lifting up little by little. Alright, so that was number 3. Pull that out. Is it pointing in the correct direction? Yes. And it says number 3. Let me step off camera. Alright, now this camshaft should lift straight up. Very gently. And there we go. Now what you don't want to do is ever drop one of these. Again, I have a box set up over here so that it has edges, and I'm going to put some blocks around this. You break one of these, it makes for a bad day. Alright, so I currently have the exhaust cam out, and I'll check it closely for scoring and other issues. Now, here's where I'm going to take my magnet. Let me reposition this camera for you so you can see these shims. Let's see if we can get a good shot there. Now, you should have a clear shot of these shims, which are on top. There should be 2 per cylinder, so there's going to be a total of 16 by the time I get it all said and done. 2, 4, 6, 8. So I'm going to take a magnet. I want to get the shim and the keeper from the number 4 cylinder. In fact, it all came out as one piece. And you can see, you're going to look for any scoring. Whoops, as I hit the camera, you're going to look for any scoring. Let me get, I'll pull the camera off in a minute. It's going to be difficult in this darkness. But you're going to be looking for any scoring or damage here and on the sides. So I'm going to pull all 4 of these out. I don't think you need to see that on this camera, or I'm sorry, all 8 of these, and I'll be right back. Alright, I am back to finish off this particular video. I ran out of memory on the card the other day, so I had to download all of this and erase the card and come back so I can come back and do the rest of this. Alright, so if you remember, I had to remove the exhaust camshaft first. This is the timing belt side. This is where the pulley would be for the timing belt and the camshaft. The exhaust camshaft, intake camshaft. This would be where the firewall of the car would be. And this is where the exhaust manifold would be, intake manifold. So I went ahead and removed that in its sequence that I described. I then have to remove this one in sequence, but if you remember, one of the caps really did not cover any part of the camshaft. I could go ahead and remove that. That was here. The same with this one. The camshaft ends here. This particular area right here, there's a cap. This is where a distributor would be had this car had a distributor. And this is where a lot of oil leaks occur. And you can't see it because it's behind this large black bracket which holds the coil packs on it and several other things. You've got to remove the air box, lots of hoses in order to get to that. So I could have taken it off while it was on the car, but it's just easier once I remove the cylinder head to go ahead and remove it, clean it up. And it's just easier on a surface like this because, you know, in the car it's got a bit of a tilt. Now, I loosened this sequence up. I believe it was 1, 3, 4, and then 2. And if you remember, on bearing cap number 1, as I broke it loose, you then do each of the bolts a quarter turn at a time, and that keeps things in an even distribution. Remove that, and you know, I've already taken the shims and the followers out, which I will show you in a minute. I don't think on the previous video it was very easy to see them because it was a bit on the dark side. But I'm going to go ahead and show you the camshaft removal. It just lifts right out in and by itself. Now remember that you don't want to mix these parts up. You want to label them very carefully. And as I told you, I've got a cat somewhere in my garage. That's my outdoor cat. She'll knock things over. So I've got them labeled. I've got them in jars. I've got the camshafts in a box with an edge so the cat, gosh, I can't talk tonight. The cat cannot knock them over. So once I got the bearing caps off, here is the intake cam. Now the only difficulty I had was over here is where, again, the pulley is and the camshaft seal. So I had to tap it a little bit with a rubber-faced and plastic-faced hammer to loosen it up, because this cap was on some posts and it popped right out. So here, again, is your intake camshaft. Oh, you know, it said in the Haynes manual to take that knock pin, which you'll see when you remove the pulley, and turn it like 80 to 115 degrees to the left of center to get this out. I found it easier, and I double checked with a mechanic on justanswer.com. I turned a little bit to the right until it relieved about 99% of the tension, and then removed this. When setting things back up, it'll have to be reinstalled that way. So I'll check this for damage later on. I want to show you one of the shims. And shims, these shims look much like those watch batteries that you get, the CR 2032s and 2025s. It very much looks like that. And it's in this follower, which again, I'll look for damage on that too. See if I can get a good focus there. So I'll be looking for any scoring or damage. Now those shims are of different thicknesses, so that's why you don't want to mess anything up. You don't want to have something out of adjustment. This is not spring-loaded as some of the Hondas are, where you can go and adjust using a wrench and a screwdriver. These are adjusted by the size of the shims, and they're different sizes. And I checked, I think they're about $18 a piece. Now you'll notice there is a bit of a notch in there. That's where you can take a small screwdriver and pop it out and put another one in if you had to. So that's what those look like. Now again, 2 per cylinder, so that's going to be 16, and I've labeled them all because again, you don't want to mix them up, you don't want to drop them, and you definitely don't want to drop a camshaft. That will make for a very bad day. They are expensive. They are also very brittle, and they'll actually crack on you. Okay, oh, I know this question has probably come to mind. Why didn't you just go ahead and remove the head and put it here on the bench and then remove everything? Would that have not been easier? Well, unfortunately, in this particular model, you can't do that because the camshafts are over the head bolts. And these particular head bolts also require a 12-point socket. Let me get to here. The 12-point socket to get them off. You see, the bolts too are what they call TTY, torque to yield. So you have to not use them the second time. You have to buy new ones each time, because when you torque these down, what will happen is they stretch to a certain point to grab the threads. Now on the Hondas that I've done, those bolts are much longer. You could reuse them, but I'm a little antsy about that. If I've gotten this far, I might as well replace them. And on one of my videos where I did a Honda Accord V6, 2 of the bolts had actually snapped, and I was not about to risk that when I was putting them back in, so I had to buy 20 new bolts, 10 per, since it was a V6. They're much longer. These are much shorter. And on the Hondas, a lot of the Hondas, it's a 3-step process. You torque it to one setting, and of course you follow the pattern inside out, and then you torque it to the second setting, and then you torque it to the third setting in the directions they give you. On this particular car, you'll torque it to like 36 foot-pounds, I believe. Then you'll mark the head of each bolt with some paint or some whiteout, turn it an additional 90 degrees, and that's it. They just do it a different way. I'm going to show you, let me take the camera off the stand, and I'll show you where the springs are. So, there are your valves, and the keepers are here. Of course, that's, you know, under tension. Here's the valves, 2 per cylinder. So you'll have, and remember, you've got intake and exhaust. These are the exhaust, these are the intake. I will flip this over and show you what that looks like also. Here are the spark plug tubes. Remember, this is the front or the exhaust side, that's the intake side. You have different sized valves depending on whether intake or exhaust. Now you can see down here, here's one of the holes, there's two of the holes, three, well, I'm going too fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the bolt holes for each of the head bolts. Again, torque to yield, you don't reuse them. I'm getting new ones. Actually, I've got new ones. Also, you may notice you've got to be very careful when you put a cylinder head down, because sometimes the valves may be sticking out a little bit. If you notice, I've really got it on the edge of some 2x4s, and you don't want to leave this entire cylinder head on any of those valves. You could bend them. So I'm going to turn this over and show you what it looks like underneath. Here are the valves. This is the bottom side view. So if you remember, the intake would have been this side. They are larger than the exhaust. So here are the intake. Now for 217 plus thousand miles, this doesn't look terrible. But again, I will have this taken to the shop. I will have it pressure tested. I didn't have an overheat situation, but I'm going to have it done anyway. Pressure tested, cleaned, and a valve job. And since I don't really have all the tools necessary to do a valve job, I'm going to pay them to do that. At the very least, I need new seats. Those things are original. So you see all the leakage that I had. So this would be cylinder 1, and here's cylinder 4. And if you notice, there's an awful lot of residue here and residue here, and I'll show you how that matches on the car. This is where a lot of that oil was going. I was losing a quart a month, and it just seemed odd that I was losing so much oil for an oil pan leak and some small leaks with some seals, especially when I took it apart. And per the advice of my expert on JustAnswer.com, you know, go ahead and get the, since you're this far into it, it just snowballed, you might as well go ahead and get the valve job done. And when I took this apart the other night, I'll show you what I found. I am standing over where the number 1 cylinder is. That's the number 1 cylinder there. So I'm standing on the timing belt side. Now if you look, you'll see an awful lot of residue here, but more so way over here at number 4, there's more residue. And this is where most of the oil was going. It's way down here. You can see where it's just really splashed everywhere. So my leak was more oil than it was coolant. I found just a little bit of milkshake residue, which tells me the oil was mixing with the coolant. So it probably would have leaked coolant sooner or later. Now I still have not scraped off the head gasket here, but you can see the residue toward the back. It was tremendous. I was surprised. I will also, if you can look down here, you can see the carbon in cylinder number 2. That's not bad. I've seen worse. So what I'll do is I will rotate the engine, and I'll start on cylinder 1 and 4, take some seafoam and a Scotch-Brite pad and clean that up. Of course, I'll have to clean this gasket residue off too. Clean this up. I'll take that head to the shop, and we'll put things back together eventually. But again, I was a little surprised at the amount of leakage that I had. But again, a quart a month, that was something I wasn't accustomed to. I'd done a pressure check, so my rings are still good. I did that compression check, and that was at the very beginning. So this is kind of what I ended up with. Here's one of the 2 posts here, and there's another post way over there that when you put the cylinder head on, that keeps it in alignment. I've also learned on this Toyota that the head gasket is slightly different. On the Hondas, they're all metal. On this one, it's metal plus some kind of other material there. I don't know exactly what it's made of, but another kind of material. And that's what seems to have just really deteriorated after all these years. So slight differences and variations between vehicles. Let me go ahead and do a little synopsis here. So hopefully I've shown you on a double camshaft Toyota LE 4-cylinder automobile how to remove those camshafts. Now again, I will take the cylinder head again to have it pressure checked, I'll have it cleaned, and I'll have the valve job done. But I had not seen any of the videos on this particular model on how to take these camshafts out. Haynes was a pretty good manual, but again, I do go to justanswer.com, and the two mechanics that I've used so far, one is named Eric, E-R-I-C, and the other is Toyota Service. Sometimes I'll ask questions of both of them because I may be in a pinch and I'm talking to one, but the other might be off for a couple days, so I'll switch between the two. But they've always given me very good service. Again, justanswer.com, justanswer.com. They've helped me out. I've had a membership for a couple of years now, and believe me, it's worth it. So, once more, just follow my credo. I'll fix your car, but it won't go far.